This is Laptop Radio. Today's topic is Decentralized Education with Moritz. Moritz, the founder of Decade. Moritz, are you on the line?
Hello, Michelle. Yeah, nice
Hello?
to be here. Thank you for having me.
Where are you based?
I'm based in Berlin.
Awesome. I was just there.
You
So,
like it?
yeah, it was awesome. I love the food. I love I love the people, and it was a lot of fun. There's a lot of culture.
Yeah, there is. That's a great reason to be in Berlin, but it's also a reason to become distracted. So
That's true.
for a lot of people, it's not so good to work, but I really like it here.
Yeah, I love Berlin. It was fun. So let's talk about Decade and you. So what is your story?
Yeah, I was actually born and raised in Berlin, and after school, I made some traveling around the world. And when I came back to Berlin, two of my best friends had started a magazine in Berlin, and so I joined them as a creative director. And I didn't know what to study because I liked a lot of topics, but I couldn't commit to something especially. So I thought it was a great idea to try something out, and this magazine actually became kind of successful and evolved into an agency. And from this agency, we also an advertising agency. We were, for example, the digital lead agency for Carlsberg in Europe. From this, we also started to build apps for clients, and we also started to build our own apps. And one app that I was in charge of was called Abend, and on this app it was all about the nightlife and what people should do at night. And we gathered some data and displayed it to the user. And at some point we got a little bit bored of this agency, because obviously, like, we always had to do what the client told us to do, and we thought we had better ideas. And so we spun off this app, this Abend app, and raised some capital for that. And yeah, and I became I started as a head of product, and at some point became CEO of the company. At peak, we had like 30 people and like 3,000 customers. So it was a nice time. And during that time, I was already like it was around uh, 2013 that I became a bit interested also in Bitcoin through my friends. And then in early 2013, I also started investing a little bit in it. And in 2015, I started to write an article about Bitcoin. It was called "Why Bitcoin Should Replace the Like Button." And this got some traction also for influential people like Mark Andreessen. I think retweeted it, and that's why then it got a little bit of traction. And also here in Europe, then people came to me and asked me like if I would talk to them. And one of them was Yanislav of the Eternity Project, for example. That's how I met them. And yeah, and in 2017, we decided to sell the company, this Abend, this event advertisement company, and to focus fully on the adoption of blockchain technology. And that's kind of the story of how I got into the whole space.
Tell us about Decade because you transitioned to education.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really education, but like the magazine business of educating, or at least like to bringing information to people, was like already like a little bit close. And we also did videos. So I think I always had, and also writing this article, I always had, I don't know, I always have a passion for learning new things and then also distributing the knowledge. And so this was also what, I mean, something that I really enjoy doing. And since in the previous company we were focused on marketing, I thought, okay, now I want to do something that's really interesting for me, if they have a freedom to choose what I want to do. And so education made sense. And on the other hand, we also thought, I looked at the space and was looking at, okay, what's something that the space actually needs. And at that point, there was huge demand for blockchain developer, and it still is. And so the idea was, okay, how can we scale this? How can we create something where people can learn how to develop for blockchain technology? Because at this point, it was usually there were like a lot of workshops that you could do for 2 weeks for 2,000 euros or something. So we're very expensive. And our mission or our challenge that we wanted to solve was, okay, how can we build something which is accessible so people from all over the world can contribute or can have access to this education, and make it cheap for everybody, and but also scalable. And that's kind of the challenge that we're trying to solve, and what we're trying to solve with Decade too.
I signed up for Decade. Haven't really gone through the series yet, but I will. And I'm looking forward to it. I think education is really important in the space. Based on my experience, I think when I was PayPal attorney, a lot of people didn't really understand digital wallets and digital payments. And
Yeah,
I think when the rise of blockchain and Bitcoin, as it became more popular when it was 20,000, then everyone seems to be lawyers. And
yeah,
for some reason, everyone is just talking about the law, everyone's talking about taxes. And I was just like, wow, all these skills that used to require licenses, now everyone seems to be an expert at it. And I
yeah,
think, for once, I think it's just really important that people become educated about just really the substance, right, of what blockchain and what cryptocurrency is, and not just the hype and the noise of what everyone is talking about, which could be fake, right? So I think
yeah.
it's kind of important to provide real education and real substance. So I'm really excited about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, not only want what we want to do. I mean, maybe I can explain it in a little bit more detail what we're doing. But the idea is basically that not only to create like a good course or something to educate people on blockchain technology, but more to build a platform where people can educate each other. So this is basically the idea that we have, or also the challenge that we are seeing, because obviously like there's so much information on the internet, right? I mean, you can get everything from Wikipedia and from articles and from YouTube tutorials. You can basically learn everything, but just having the information is not how you acquire knowledge. I mean, that's like a very different thing, and that's the problem that we want to tackle. That how from something that you can see or that information that you can access, how can you build an actual skill at the end? Or how can people really gain knowledge? And usually you have a teacher or something like a teacher who gives you feedback and who guides you and tells you what you did wrong, what you did right, and how could you improve. But if you just have a Wikipedia page or something like this, it's very hard for people to progress on that. And that's kind of the idea of Decade, to make a platform where people can interact with each other and help each other. Yeah, maybe I can explain how it works in detail, or do you think like it's a little bit too much?
Sure, yeah, I think that will be awesome.
Okay, so how it works at the moment, and this is just the first step, is that we have something that's called like a learning community on different topics. So it could be, for example, how to build your first Ethereum app. So your first app on a testnet on Ethereum. Then what you basically get is first learning materials. This can be curated learning materials. So in the community, this could link to some sources. You don't have to create everything for it, but you could just provide the links to it. In the case of the learning communities that we have now, we actually made most of the materials, but that doesn't have to be. And in these materials, for example, in the Ethereum community, it's about a video tutorial on how to build decentralized application on top of Ethereum. And then after the learner has reviewed all these materials and maybe has followed along the tutorial and built their own decentralized application, then they get to a challenge. And this is actually the part where now it becomes more interesting and the part that we are focused on. And this challenge in this case, for example, is, okay, now that you learned all this and maybe even followed along the tutorial and built this, now build your own decentralized application. And don't copy just the code that you learned, but provide your own take on it, maybe add some new functions, research a little bit. Then there's the opportunity to even earn some token. So for example, some Ethereum, if you did a really good job, if you created something really new and something that is quality-wise, that's working, and then you get feedback first off by the other members of the community. So they can tell you in the form of GitHub pull requests, for example, how you could improve your code, what is not working. And on the other hand, when this is done, when you got a lot of feedback, then the administrator of the community gives you an assessment, an evaluation, where it rates you on certain criteria, for example, how original is or or how not. And that's kind of how on the one side we incentivize people because you get these rewards for submitting an interesting DApp to actually build something. And on the other hand, the students who give good feedback, they also get rewards. And this is how we want to encourage that people build something and then get feedback on that. And that's how our peer-to-peer learning works at the moment.
I like the collaboration aspect of it. I think it's really important that the community can learn together and kind of grow together. I was about to actually take a coding class where where there's no teachers and you're supposed to learn from each other, but I haven't had time to do that yet because I intended to take it in February to share it. Then I was supposed to go to Hong Kong, so I didn't go. I'm actually looking forward to taking some classes here. What was your aha moment? Because you have a lot of experiences with previous startups. And with this one, what was special about that?
What's really special about it is that, I mean, beforehand, I kind of always, I don't know, had like my friends next to me or the people that I work with next to me, and also like our audience, that it was more like, I think like more a top down approach on building a product or doing something. And with this year, actually we started out doing like meetups, and on the meetups we have a meetup group with 600 people in Berlin, blockchain education. So at this time we experimented with our materials and got feedback from the people, and have a Telegram community with people all over the world. So I think this was really a special moment to see, on the one hand, in these things that are outside of the platform, but still the community, how this community develops. That's, I mean, this time it's really all about the community. It's not so much like having a person at the center stage, but more how we can build something together and learn something together and grow relationships together. And to see this, how this works, and then people say, hey, thank you so much for this awesome pull request, or like your pull requests. And in the end, now it looks so much nicer and works so much better. I think this is something to connect people that previously didn't know each other. And then to have this working is, I think for me, this is the most special moment.
And what is your vision for this company?
Yeah, the vision is to really maybe even mimic a little bit what is Join, maybe the best parts of things that are offline and online. So I mean, people say that they study mostly because one of the most valuable things of studying is to meet the people. So that maybe you met your co-founder in university, or maybe you made very good contacts that you later on can use. But this is something that online learning doesn't really show at the moment. And so on Decade, this is like the vision that you go there and meet great people, that maybe you end up with building projects together, and maybe at some point this could be streamlined into a funded project, and then you can build out a company of that. And maybe even the students can help to build Decade too. So we want to make it soon open source too, and make courses on how to make Decade better, so that everybody can like build this platform out and make awesome projects out of this.
How big is your team now?
I am at the moment the only full-time person. We have a lot of contributors. The contributors, I don't know, that's difficult to say, maybe like 20 people or something. We work together with one developer network in Berlin called Ape Unit. So they have a lot of developers, a lot of designers. And so I'm working with them closely together. And then there are people who are just contributing from the community. So for example, someone always translates all our videos in different languages or things
Awesome.
like this. Yeah, that's really great. And also this is something that we want to grow bigger. So not to have some central instance, but to really get the community involved.
There are Udemy and Coursera, and there's a number of online education platforms. How is yours different from the others?
Yeah. So most of the other platforms are, I mean, so there are two different kind of platforms, I would say. So there's more I would say, like older approach from something like Udemy, which is mostly like information. So you have a lot of videos where you can have tutorials or to learn how to cook or something like this. Basically passive content consumption. And then you have something like Udacity or Coursera, where you also have a lot of videos and content consumption, but then sometimes you also you actually interact with the instructor or have someone who reviews your code. And so how we are different is that we want to focus not on this on the passive content consumption part, but make this interactive part, so everything that comes after the access of information, which could everybody else do, we are just focusing on what you actually learned, how to apply that, and how to improve from that.
Mm-hmm.
And so taking this, what also something like Udacity is doing, but they are doing it very expensively because you have the teacher, and the teacher are usually the bottlenecks. So they have to review all the materials, and that's why it's expensive, and that's why it takes a lot of time. But our approach is that people educate each other, so they give feedback and interact with each other. And this is, I would say, like the main differentiator.
Yeah, I love that. I actually tutored AP biology, advanced
Mm-hmm.
placement biology. It's kind of like college level for high school students. And I think AP history, English, the classes are quite expensive. So I think it's kind of important that education becomes more democratized all over the world,
Yeah.
because who really could afford a couple $100 for 1 hour?
Yeah.
And so I love what you're doing. And I think it's really important because even English in the US, everyone speaks English, and or almost everyone. Basic skills that we have, we really see a lot of people paying a lot per hour just to learn that. And it applies to you as well, right? Like I don't know German, right? And if I
Yeah.
want to learn it, how much does the software programs cost? I think what you're doing is really important. I love the interaction and the
Yeah,
collaboration.
maybe one more thing to add there. I think what is especially interesting when thinking about blockchain technologies, also that I think it's especially interesting in countries where people don't have access, or at least maybe don't have the money to something like Udacity, and don't have access to this educational resources, or at least the interaction part of it. For example, we at the CADE, we have a focus on this country. So we have a lot of students from Venezuela, from Nigeria, and especially Africa and South America. These are obviously also Germany and a little bit US, but these are our core markets. And also because we believe that probably they will leapfrog new systems with blockchain technology, that here, like in our comfortable developed countries, we don't even have the problems that they are having. And so for them, I think it's especially interesting, or for me, it's more exciting also to see what they came up with, what kind of ideas. We already have like very interesting ideas and submissions of the people of those countries. Also, these countries, I mean, most of the young people are actually from developing countries. So I think it's very important to have education in place there, so they can actually compete like on the and participate in the global economy. I think there's a lot of value to do, and we are looking always for software developers. They're so expensive, and if we can close the gap a little bit more, I think this would be very valuable.
That's awesome. What is your plans and thoughts on the future of the project?
Yeah, I mean, like if you're looking into really concrete things, what we are doing going to do next, there's something like we want to do after learners already learned about like where in the community and successfully have done that. So soon we also want to add something like online hackathons. We would call it like monthly challenges, and there we would like to pair up people together, so that's something that I talked earlier about, that they actually make social interactions maybe with people they don't know, and try to program something together and then compete for some prizes. And they can also, maybe if this works out and they started something great, they can continue to do that and seek funding at some point. So this is something that we want to do. Then at some point, we want to do kind of our own token, or at least some kind of point system, so that we don't have to rely for rewards always on outside token by other projects, but have something internal so that people can maybe pay to enter a community and then pay for feedback, and they can also earn for giving feedback, and like this, making kind of our own economy inside the platform. Yeah, I think like these are the bigger areas. And obviously like in 2020 we want to onboard more projects. We're already in talks with a lot of projects at the moment. So in our current stage, we tried everything out with one company, the Eternity blockchain, And for the next year, we want to onboard more projects.
I've been seeing a lot of women who are coding right now. I was told that there are not a lot of women who are programmers and software developers and who are not interested in coding. Do you see a lot of women involvement and women who are joining the projects so that they could learn how to code and learn about blockchain?
So we have one non-technical learning community where people learn basics about blockchain technology. There we have a lot of women. And on the coding side, we actually have, I mean, we see that people are interested and women are interested, and also some finishing it and building projects, but still very much male dominated. I don't know if this, especially in developing countries, is even a bigger issue, but we are also like always encouraging the community to get women more involved and looking into how we can actually, also we're working, for example, soon we're in talks with government in Rwanda, for example, and seeing how maybe if we can work with them together on some initiatives with women coding project. So that's definitely something that we want to do. And I think especially in these countries, this is important. At the moment, I would see that it's still not a lot of women who are in the community.
I think besides having more women who want to code and nurturing that, it's also important to provide an environment where they can code and not get harassed by other people.
Maybe that's also, I think, a very, very nice about our platform is that you don't have to reveal your name or identity, or nobody knows if you are from, for example, Africa or Germany, or if you are a man or a woman, or if you are something identify as something else. So I think this is also very great to have this opportunity that you can, if you always before have the feeling that you get treated differently. So now you have the possibility to interact and learn with other people, but maybe without the need to reveal your identity.
That's great. Are there anything else in the project that you would like to talk about or share that I have not asked yet?
Maybe one thing that how it works a little bit on the B2B side. So I think we talk more like how the B2C side, so someone who wants to learn how this works, maybe also to make this like a little bit rounder or to understand how it a little bit works, is that companies like, for example, the Eternity project that we're working together with why they're actually issuing tokens for learning. So they are paying the people to build something. Like if it's good, then they get the reward. And this is issued in the Eternity token in this form. And they do that because for them, it's more attractive. This is an easier way on how to measure some kind of marketing efforts. So normally, if you are a company like this, obviously like the blockchain projects, they are all looking for developer adoption. So somebody who uses their technology. And this is a very competitive field. So the question is, what do you do? And what they usually do is probably like sponsor a conference or doing meetups. But then it's very hard to see, okay, how successful was it? How would you measure it? With the Decade, you have these incentives that people get something for it. So it's already a little bit more attractive to earn. And on the other side, you also see what comes out of it. So if someone does tutorial and in the end submits a project on GitHub, so you can see the code and see build something with your technology. Somebody built something with your technology. So I think this is a benefit, and this is how we want to, like, at the moment, how we gain traction, because for people that are, for example, in developing countries, these rewards are very high. So for example, now if you build Eternity app, you can gain like $75. This is a lot. And this is also an approach that I think is very interesting. If we can match this, that people can earn little by little amounts for like building something, but also for giving feedback, this could then maybe provide the way to a coding career in these countries, where otherwise maybe someone who just started, and maybe someone doesn't have the time to dedicate like half a year on studying code, or even 2 years until they are fully developed, and then can earn money with it. But we want to provide already markets for what I would call like developing knowledge. So even if you learned already a little bit, maybe this knowledge is worth something to somebody who just started out. And so this kind of should build out, or this is the idea, to build out this network of people who can help each other.
Do you provide certifications to the students?
At the moment, not. Maybe we'll do it in the future. But what we are thinking also is that most companies put a lot of value on your GitHub profile. So if you can show what you have built, and on the CADE you have the opportunity to build something new and maybe even improve it with the help of the community. So then you have like another thing that you can show to people, hey, look, I built this project, and they can look into the code. And for a lot of companies, this is more valuable than some certificate that shows something. But we also know that a lot of people want to have certificates. So at some point, we'll probably provide something like a certificate, maybe also like saved on the blockchain, or at least a hash saved on the blockchain.
I was moderating a panel on AI and ethics, and even though I'm a lawyer and we basically take ethics class and we have to take continuing legal education, I have working experience on privacy and data, and also work on AI projects. I was still challenged by a man and a woman, and they basically says that, well, you were never certified on
Oh.
AI and ethics. How could you moderate a panel on that? And I was just like, really? So I literally, before my panel, I took a AI and ethics class, and I got certified for it. I mean, it was easy,
Yeah.
but I still do it. And, because I think there are people who would challenge that. And if you're a woman, people think that you don't really know technology or certain things, even you have credentials, right?
Yeah.
So I think at some point, I think certifications may be important, especially for countries, people from other countries,
Yeah.
where people might have assumptions about them.
Yeah, I also noticed that it's true that you need something. I mean, what also I didn't talk about is that we have a reputation system. This is also very important, because
Mhm.
otherwise, if somebody gives you feedback, how would you know if he's like qualified or not? So this is also something that people could look into. Okay, someone who has already a lot of reputation, they already provided a lot of feedback in the community. But still, I think you are very right, especially in other countries, certificates are still, and I think probably in the near future, this won't change.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
important. We have to think about how to do that. Maybe work together with companies, and then just like the company is basically the one who issued this. Like also on platforms like Udacity, they are doing it. So also maybe like the same way like they do it, that if you successfully absolve this course or something, that you can get the opportunity for an interview at a company or something like this.
If I am challenged
Yeah.
by other people, both men and women, I'm sure that other women and minority groups and people from other countries may be challenged as well, right? And
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
very annoying that you have to prove yourself again and again. I mean, I literally have over 30 recommendations on LinkedIn, and I'm still being challenged. I just couldn't imagine how a woman could survive here in the US.
I mean, the good thing with coders is, so we are now mostly focusing on developers, so actually exclusively focusing on developers. So there's always like, I mean, most people have like a GitHub repositories
Yeah.
that they can look into, and so it's a little bit easier, I would say, as in other professions, because there it's very hard to prove what you've done. Maybe they can look up what you have written or something like this. But yeah, the certificates are even more important. With software development, they're also, I think, still important. And I think you're also right, probably especially for women from a country in South America, then comes to Germany, then probably it's very important for them to have some kind of certificates.
Yeah.
But because it's developers, we put it a little bit, I would say, like in the backlog of our to-do list. But at some point, certainly we will have to do something like it.
Yeah, I love the certificate now. I think like every time I take a class, I'll be like, okay, I want a certificate, just in case
Yeah.
someone asks.
Yes.
A lot of the projects I work on is actually private, so they're not on GitHub. So a lot of people ask me, hey, do you code? How do you code? I was a coder before I became a lawyer, right? I
Yeah.
used to develop websites and design websites. I did a lot of technical writing as well. Men ask me, well, how do you know that? And they get really surprised, and I just really didn't realize the importance of that, and luckily didn't really care about explaining myself. But I think if your life is really dependent on the skills that you have, I think becomes really, really important.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And what is one advice that you would like to provide to the larger community?
Oh, probably like if it's focused on the blockchain community, that people shouldn't worry about the price. I mean, if they're really in for the long term, I think it's good. I had at weeks, I don't even know like what kind the crypto prices are, and I think like for me, like getting a little bit focusing on what you're building and not getting involved in, I mean, even if it's so addictive, and for me too, like to look at the Twitter feed and all of the news surrounding the space. I think it's very nice to have like maybe a lot of time off and off of this and focus on something. Or, I mean, we can see also in the eco space there are so many fights all around these areas. So I think it's if you can blend this out, for me at least, this helps me a lot to focus on my project, to see where this is going.
Where could people learn more about Decade?
On decade.org, I think this, maybe there you will find everything that you need to know, and then join our Telegram and interact with our community.
And it's DACADE.org. Maria,
Thanks a lot for your
time.
time and interest. Speak to you soon.
Yeah, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.